Hey there, ghouls. It's the Creepmas season, and I know this is a very hectic time of year for all of us, but I'd like to invite you to kick back, relax, pour yourself a hot cocoa, and let me read you a story. Every night from now through December 24th, I will read you a chapter from my new holiday creature feature, Christmas Creeps from the Deep. So tune in and hang out with me at 7 p.m. Eastern Time every night for a new chapter. Let's get to it, shall we? Chapter 8. Well shit indeed. The fishman closed in around Earl and he didn't know what to do. The situation was dire. He had an armful of spotlights, a cat hanging onto his neck for dear life, and no plan. Get back in here, I'll cover you. Holly didn't run to Granny's. She stood on the porch, gun moving from fishman to fishman like they were targets in the county fair shooting game. Watch where you're pointing that thing. Earl didn't know if he should be more scared of the fishman or of Holly accidentally shooting him. Either way, he'd never make it to the door. There were too many fish between here and there. Earl Frost! Holly screamed. A fishman brought its claw down. Earl moved too late. A claw grazed his cheek and it erupted in searing pain. He stumbled, and Jellybean clawed his way up the back of Earl's skull. The cat hissed, then catapulted off Earl's head and landed on the fish's face before he could cut Earl again. Jellybean did a Fred Flintstone run on the creature's eyeball. It squealed and fell into another fishman, and the two of them went down like dominoes. Jellybean shot up and went airborne. He landed on another creature and sank his teeth into its eye. It dropped into the snow and rolled around squealing. The poor thing tried to get Jellybean off its face, but couldn't grab him with its short arms. Their anatomy wasn't designed to fend off land-dwelling felines. Jellybean wasn't finished. He jumped from one fishman to another, using their eyeballs as scratching posts. He moved from one to the next so fast he was a fat white blur. Holly screamed, Jellybean, no! Earl cheered, Jellybean, yes! That cat was dynamite, a puffed-up murder ball of claws and teeth. The fishmen were so busy with Jellybean, they didn't pay any attention at all to Earl and his armful of lights. This was his chance to save Misty Pines and everyone in it, and he was going to take it. Earl turned and ran smack into another fishman. It had a couple of Holly's pink plastic flamingos in its mouth. It saw the lights Earl was carrying and raised its webbed hand, ready to attack. Oh, hell no! Holly's rage-filled voice rose behind Earl. The fishman stopped, listening. Those are antique, original Featherstone flamingos. Do you know how hard it was to find those? You goddamn fish are done ripping up my house! Boom. She fired. The fishman's head exploded, coating Earl in blood and brains head to toe. It dropped, a headless hunk of dead meat on the snow. The flamingos hit the ground unharmed, apart from a couple of chew marks on their pink plastic behinds. Earl stood there for a second in complete shock. Damn, girl, how'd you get to be such a good shot? I was the 4-H junior champion in shooting sports at the county fair 3 years running. She cocked the gun, ready to go again. And it was official. Earl loved Holly, and he would never love another as long as he lived. Easy promise to keep, considering he could be 5 minutes from the end of his life. But still. A door creaked open on the other side of the gravel road, and Edna Weebler poked her head out of her 1956 double-decker pacemaker trailer and said, I hear you setting off your New Year's fireworks early. You better cut it out. We have a noise ordinance, you know. The old lady didn't seem to notice the big white fish everywhere. Then again, she was in her nightgown and wasn't wearing glasses. You mind your own damn business, Edna Weebler. Now you shut that door and go back inside right now before I show you what's what. Holly flashed her gun. Don't make me come over there and shut that door for you. Well, I never. I'm filing a complaint. This isn't over. Edna Weebler huffed, but she went inside and locked her door. Oh, Edna Weebler and her nib-nose almost got us all killed, Holly huffed. But Holly was wrong. Edna Weebler had saved them. She'd given Earl an idea. Earl ran to the space between Edna Weebler's 1956 double-decker pacemaker and the Noby's 1976 Hillcrest single-wide. It was clear. No fish, although Earl could see Holiday Lake at the other end. More of those things were coming up the rocks and across the road, and if they made it to Misty Pines, everyone who lived here was as good as dead. Right then, Earl knew what he had to do. He grabbed one of the spotlights, turned it around, shined it right in the fishmen's eyes, the ones that Jellybean hadn't ripped to shreds, and yelled, Hey, over here! The fishmen all locked in on the light, except for the one wearing Jellybean like a snood. Earl waved that spotlight in their fishy faces around and around until their big blind eyes followed him, like cats with a laser pointer. They clicked to each other, then lumbered toward Earl. All of them, because Granny was right. They were schooling fish. "What are you doing?" Holly said. "You go to Granny's, you hear? Don't worry about me, I got this." At least Earl hoped he did. Earl swallowed hard and kept the light pointed at the fishman's eyes as he slid into the narrow space between Edna Weebler's and the Nobies. He backed through, slow and steady, making sure the fishmen were following him, making sure he was luring them in. They followed him, all right. Unfortunately, the ones out by the water took notice of the glowing beacon that was Earl Frost, too, and they started toward him from the other direction. Earl didn't know if this was the smartest, bravest thing he'd ever done, or the dumbest, but he knew he'd be caught in the world's worst fish sandwich if he messed up. The fishman inched down the narrow space between trailers, following Earl single file. It was the only way they could fit. They hissed and swatted. Their tentacles vibrated, and Earl moved slowly, making sure they were still behind him, even though he wanted to run and scream. 50 feet had never felt so long, but Earl made it. He stepped out behind the trailer, stomped through a snowbank, and went to the road. There were fish in front of him, coming out of the ice, and behind him, coming out from between the trailers. There had to be 3 dozen of those things. He swallowed hard, but stuck with the plan. He waved a spotlight around, screaming, "Hey, over here, look!" They all hissed and clicked, but he had their attention, so he chucked that light as hard as he could, throwing it clean over the road. He had never thrown so high or so hard in his life. All that t-ball and slow-pitch softball at the annual Misty Pines Summer Picnic had finally paid off. The spotlight arced through the sky, over the road and the rocks, and hit the lake. It skidded across the ice a ways before the snow and bumps slowed it down. Earl threw the rest of the spotlights one by one, and when the last one skidded to a stop, the icy blanket covering Holiday Lake was peppered with glowing dots. The fishman lumbered to the water's edge. "That's right. Go back where you came from," Earl whispered. He tiptoed over to the gap between the Burtness and Barney trailers. They were so close together a fishman couldn't follow him through, but before he slipped between them, Earl looked back. The fishmen stood at the shore, but they didn't go out onto the ice. They looked at the sky and clicked. Click, click, wait. Click, click, wait. That same pattern again. Then they all turned and lumbered down Main Street together. Earl slipped back to Holly's. When he walked up, she was standing on her porch, gun up, scanning the horizon. When she saw him, she jumped off her porch, ran over to Earl and squeezed him so tight his blood pressure went up. "I thought you were dead, Earl Frost." "Where's Jellybean?" Earl said. "Yeah, you know him. He loves tuna." Jellybean was sitting on that dead fishman on the porch, licking the juice out of the hole that used to be its face. "Ew," Earl said. "Are they all gone now?" Holly asked. "They won't go back in the water. It's weird." "Well, then where did they go?" "They shuffled off down Main Street," Earl said. "Well, why would they do that? Where are they going?" she asked. Earl shrugged. "I don't know." "Well, what do we do now? We can't all sit in the dark until those things decide to go home. It's almost Christmas," Holly said. "Christmas?" Earl looked at Holly. Holly looked at Earl, and they both said it at the same time. "The Christmas Light Festival." "All those people are sitting ducks. They got no idea what's coming for 'em." Granny sat on her porch, fiddling with her gun. "You two stop lollygagging and saddle up. We got a whole town to save." Thank you so much for joining me for Christmas Creeps from the Deep. Come back tomorrow and I will read you Chapter 9. Until then, pleasant nightmares.